guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I've got one anyway. To make today's review extra special, I've invited a special guest today. Ladies and gentle YouTubers, may I be the first to introduce the Tres McNeil of YouTube herself, BorisFangirl.
Hi everybody, it's good to be here.
It's good to have you on the show, BFG.
Big Friendly Giant?
No, silly, that's you. It's the initials for your name.
Oh yeah, silly me.
Can I just call you by your real name to save confusion?
Sure, it'll save on syllables.
Thanks, Blake. Anyway, today we're going to review a show from the 1980s we grew up with thanks to VHS releases.
It was one of the most well-written shows of all time.
We are talking, of course, about that timeless classic,
The Wind
in the Willows.
In the Willows.
The Wind in the Willows has had many adaptions based on the 1908 book written by Kenneth Graham, such as Disney's The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, the Rankin Bass film, and the live-action film starring Matt Lucas. But the version we're talking about is the 1980s classic children's TV series created by Cosgrove Hall, the British animation team that brought us other classics such as Danger Mouse, Count Duckula, Little Robots, Noddy's Toyland Adventures, and a bunch of others we don't need to mention.
The TV series follows the 1983 film and ran through 1984 to 1989, with 5 series and 2 feature films. The first one being the 1983 movie, or The Pilot, as it's also known, and the second being A Tale of Two Toads in 1988.
The 5th series of the show was titled Oh Mr. Toad in some countries, but kept the original Wind in the Willows title in the UK. The music was composed by Keith Hopwood and Malcolm Rowe, who also wrote the songs for certain episodes. Some songs were never used, but you can find them on the soundtrack CD.
And the characters are so unforgettable, we don't even know how to name them.
We should probably name them anyway for like the 2 people who've never watched this show or read the book.
Can I start us off?
Go ahead.
Thanks. First, there's one of the smallest characters of the group, Mr. Mo of Mole End, whose voice was provided by the late Richard Pearson. Mo may be shy and quiet at the times, but he's very kind and tolerable. He's been away from Mole's End for most of his life, but he's willing to make new friends and see new things. He's very likable amongst his friends, mainly because most of his positive traits is his modesty.
I lead such a quiet life and tense adventures. Well, they are rather exciting, you know.
Next is Ratty, voiced by Peter Sallis, who you may remember as the voice of Wallace in Wallace and Gromit.
Cracking toast, Gromit.
Here's an interesting fact about Ratty. In the 1983 film, he was voiced by Ian Carmichael, but was replaced by Sallis in the TV series and became the narrator of the first 4 series.
Wow, who knew? Actually, I did, but I'm just playing along.
Ratty is a poem writer who lives on the riverbank. He likes to row his boat around the river and have picnics either by himself or with friends. He's never that keen on leaving the riverbank, but can be tempted to leave the comfort of his home to visit Toad Hall, Mole End, and Badger's home in the Wild Wood.
He's a damn good singer, as was proved many times in the movie and the show.
My favourite Ratty song is We'll Go Boating, because it's a catchy tune to sing to in the summer, especially when the sun is shining.
We'll go boating, boating, we'll go boating, boating, boating.
It just shows us that actors can also sing as well as act.
Next, how could we possibly forget this fellow?
It's Mr. Toad, voiced by the brilliant Sir David Jason, whose credits also include Danger Mouse, Count Duckula, and Del Boy Trotter.
What can we say about him that most people don't already know about? He's egocentric, though cares about his friends. However, he can be a bit ignorant when he wants to try new things.
I say, you fellows, this is the only way to travel.
He's one to try and learn on his own, though sometimes he's not very good at everything he wants to try and do. Usually, the others have to get him out of trouble, but he's there when his friends need him too.
Next on our list of characters is Badger, a grouchy old wildwood animal who
simply hates society.
Thank you, Blake. He was voiced by the late Sir Michael Hordern, who narrated the original Paddington TV series in the 1970s.
He arrived outside the hut at the same time as Mr. Curry. That's what's known as a sauna bath. There. I happen to know that it's a surprise present for Mr. Brown. He's been eating too much lately.
Badger, the wisest of animals, was a friend of Toad's late father and constantly keeps an eye on Toad, and is normally the first one to try and talk Toad out of his next craze.
And 'tis the most disgraceful thing I've ever heard.
He may seem vicious on the outside, but inside, he's a kind-hearted animal who always welcomes his friends into his home and visits them.
That's one thing I never got about Badger. He says he hates company, and yet he has no problem with spending time with his friends.
That's a good point. Can you imagine meeting a guy like Badger?
Who is it this time? Don't people want to find a watch that I've written.
Good morning, sir. Would you be interested in going to the cinema with me?
Cinema, eh? Let me just check my diary. Sorry, I have a previous engagement.
Oh, really? With who?
My cuddly Dalek.
Sorry to disturb you, sir. How about next Thursday?
Get out of here!
No, it's not yet. It's yeah. You got to put down
Now, who is it? Oh, hiya, Blake, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Fancy seeing the new Star Wars movie with me?
Oh, hell yeah! I'll go get my wallet.
And there's also the Chief Weasel, also voiced by Sir David Jason. He's smarmy, crude, and deviously clever, especially when he's trying to take over Toad Hall. However, he does have some humility. He would never poison anyone or harm a small child when it's alone in the wildwood. However, that doesn't stop him from being brash to those he doesn't like. But he is terrified of Badger in the end, for in the animal kingdom, Badgers are superior to weasels.
The Chief's second-in-command, Weasel Henchman, voiced by Brian Truman, who also wrote a majority of the series, is an idiotic animal who always gets the worst of the Chief's rage, has made his mark on the show with his catchphrase.
Very nice.
They were also your inspiration to create the robbers in Second Co, aren't they?
That's right, Blake. You may or may not know that the robbers in Second Co were inspired by the weasels from the show. Mostly the Chief and the Henchman, anyway. You can see where I get some of my ideas from.
The weasels normally spend their time trying to pickpocket from other animals, mostly Toad, cheating their way to winning any competition the riverbankers hold, and trying to steal Toad Hall like they did in the movies.
All the other characters range from Otter, his son Portly, Binny Rabbit, Mole's cousin Oberon Mole, his chauffeur Thomas, who is also a Toad, and the actor, impersonator, and con artist Isambard Barebone Toad, who made his first and only appearance in A Tale of Two Toads.
I don't really have a most favorite character. Each one has qualities about them that I love. I love Rat's artistic creativity, Mooley's shyness, Badger's wisdom and strength, and Toad is just so funny.
My favourite character in the show is Toad, and not just because he's voiced by Del Boy, though that is awesome. I love Toad's personality. He's conceited, vain, and not very bright, but he is kind-hearted and loves his friends dearly. Every time he was in an episode, I was always keen to see what his next passion is going to be. In one episode, he's into motorbikes, the next it's hot air balloons, the next is being a famous filmmaker, the next is American cannon machines, and so on and so forth. I just can't stop laughing at his antics. Every time he showed up, he stole the show.
With a show like this, I have at least one episode for each season, but I'd have to say one of my most favorite episodes is Toad Harvest from Season 4.
Yeah, I like that one too.
On a fine day in autumn, Toad reads in the Country Gentleman's Magazine about a machine from America called the Buffalo Patent Cannon Machine. When Badger hears about this, he's annoyed that he's had to buy a ridiculous device and new food to use it with, but Toad disregards his advice. When Toad finally learns how to use the machine, Rowdy and Mole try to advise him to blast the vegetables into boiling water. But Toad just takes it as jealousy. A month later, Toad invites his friends to savor the quote-unquote fruits of his labor. But as Rowdy and Mole expected, the vegetables in the cans had gone bad, causing the cans to explode with Mole's produce.
I have a range of favourite episodes that are too many to list on this review, so I'll just go through a couple of my favourites real quick. One is Winter Haunts from Series 3, where Ratty, Mole and Badger are snowbound in Toad Hall for the night, and Toad decides to scare his friends by dressing up as the ghost of his Uncle Hector Toad, to convince them that his home is full of spirits from his family members. But this lands in him being locked in his own cellar and having to find his way back into the residence. Another favourite of mine is Wayfarer's All from Series 1, where Ratty gets a visit from a seafaring rat from Constantinople, voiced by the late Jack May, who you may remember as Igor from Count Duckula, who persuades him to travel with him and leave the riverbank. What I love about this episode is the song The Seafarer Sings, which is one of my favourite songs. And that Mole and Toad went out of their way to stop Ratty from leaving them forever. Another episode I like is Caught in a Maze from Series 3, where Toad restores the Toad Hall maze to its glorious form after discovering it's been forgotten for many years, then challenges his friends to see who can make their way out of the maze first and win a bottle of champagne. Toad, being Toad, tries to cheat his way through the maze only to lose his string and get lost in the maze, thinking that it's haunted by a gardener who has lost his boot years ago. Because it's hilarious to see Toad react to getting lost in the maze and how he handles the pressure of thinking that he's being followed by a phantom.
So, in conclusion, Wind in the Willows is brilliantly written, very well acted, and has a massive impact on most childhoods that have seen the show. I give the series a solid 5 stars out of 5 stars.
I agree. This show managed to stay loyal to the original source material while writing new stories, which not a lot of writers tend to do these days. I'm looking at you, Sharon Miller. Do I even need to give you examples? The characters were still the characters we knew from the book in the new stories, the music was well composed, fitting every scene it was used in, and the actors put all their effort into their roles, especially David Jason as Toad, giving it his all and having a freaking blast with it. I think you'll agree with me when I say that The Wind in the Willows is a timeless classic that still holds up to this day.
It's been a pleasure to review this masterpiece with you, Dalek44.
And it was a pleasure to have you review it with me, Blake. It's not every day I get to do a review with YouTube's Tress McNeil.
Well, I better get going. Oh, by the way, can we do this again sometime?
Sure. And before we go, can you say goodnight, everybody?
You really want me to say it?
Yes. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks.
Good night, everybody!
Aww, I love it when you do that. It's so cute.